Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Auritas Insights. I'm Stuart Rorer. I run marketing and alliances here at Auritas, and today we're going to be talking about enterprise content management, how organizations can get more value from their unstructured data. Today I'm joined by Odeline Pavni, who's a client partner here at Auritas, and we're going to discuss specifically how OpenText Extended ECM, or XECM as you might have heard it called, helps organizations centralize their content, improve governance, and build a foundation for AI. So I'll jump straight to it, Odeline, right? So can you tell our audience a little bit about content management, kind of what it is and why is it so important?
Yeah, absolutely. And happy to be here. So, content management, it's effectively managing any kind of unstructured content that you have in your organization. And managing the unstructured content can include capturing the information. So, if you have a document coming in as a PDF, coming in as a TIFF file, as an attachment, as an Excel file, and it's also like, how are you capturing it? Do you OCR it? Do you scan it? Or do you just capture it as an electronic document? The second portion to it is, how do you effectively manage it? Which includes the folder structure, which is also called, the taxonomy. And then another portion is, where exactly within the organization should this document go? Because however you store the document, there's going to be so many other users in the organization that have to go to that particular folder to review the document. So effectively capturing the information, then storing it at the right place, and then providing the procedures to view that document back. That's, really content management as a whole. And, in today's day and age, it's not only how you store it, manage it, and display it, but it's also about, security. Do you have the authorization to view that document? So pretty much that's as a whole what content management is.
So, Odeline, just to kind of continue the conversation, right? So from an SAP user standpoint, in utilizing OpenText Extended ECM, right, what are some of the benefits that you see people are taking advantage of with this solution?
Yeah, so maybe I'll talk about the importance of content management also as a whole. So, when we're talking about technology evolution and the different kinds of integrations coming across different enterprises, content is really driving a lot of business communication. And, as a matter of fact, they say that around 80% of the different communication still travels in an unstructured format. So whether that be, again, like I was saying before, with the PDF documents, attachments, or emails coming through. So, content management, even in today's day and age, it's quite important to make sure that you have an authentic legal document and a proof of where the document was created, who managed it, how did it come through, and all of those things. And when we get more specifically into extended ECM and SAP customers looking into extended ECM, we are able to centralize the document processes and compliance all onto one single platform, which is huge. And so the primary capability of extended ECM is the ability to store documents from multiple platforms onto one single solution. And that document then has a purpose. And some actions that you might want to do with this document, whether it's in a workflow, whether it's initiating a next step in the SAP system. Extended ECM is able to initiate the next step for the users. And so that's a piece that's really unique to Extended ECM.
No, awesome. And again, right? I think you highlighted a couple pieces, right? It's that context, content with context, right? And I think that's the piece that you
Right.
talked about. And again, being able to tie a document together, specifically with a transaction in SAP. And I think another piece to that, and you alluded to it, right? But it's just that ability to access for SAP users in having that central storage, right? So SAP users being able to access the data, and then also non-SAP, right? So a non-SAP named user can actually access data through an external mechanism, right? So it's a really powerful tool. You mentioned compliance a couple times in there, right? You talked a little bit about workflow, but specifically a lot of times when we talk about Auritas in particular, like retention management, right? Not only from a data, but from the document standpoint, how do they offer that, from an OpenText standpoint, or are there pieces to retention or document management that OpenText Extended ECM helps with?
Yeah, and I mean, that's a really important piece of Extended ECM. And they have unique models within Extended ECM, which offers the capability of compliance management with records management. Records management providing you with the capability of doing compliance management, legal holds, and even connecting to the SAP system. And it even connects with SAP ILM and is able to synchronize that information. And another portion to add is that it's also 5015.3 certified. So what that means is that it's a compliance certification that helps to determine the age of the records and the compliance, and full-blown records management for even the most secure organizations.
That's awesome. And again, right, incredibly important, because again, one, making sure that you eliminate the documents that you're not supposed to have, right, from a legal perspective, incredibly important, but also kind of knowing, I think one of the things you talked about, and one of the things that is another important part about kind of the extended ECM component is the metadata that it stores. So again, it's not just these transactional documents, but think about, legal, whether it be legal contracts, right, or HR documentation, right? Think about success factors aligned with SAP and some of the employee workflow documents that have an expiration date, and you want to tie those together so that when a document is no longer valid, that it moves out of the system and you know that it's time to replace it. So incredibly important features. Auritas has been working with OpenText for years, right? And we've done a lot of really important projects. Is there one that you could call out, right, in that maybe you want to highlight as a great use case example?
Yeah, I'd say one of them is Puget Sound Energy, and they were a great example of the benefits that a customer can take away from Extended ECM. So they were facing siloed data on multiple ECM platforms, and that was resulting in high storage costs and efforts. And with that, they were also having major compliance risks due to really no proper controls for their unstructured data. And so this is when Auritas jumped in, and we created a 5-year roadmap for them for enterprise content management, which was implementing OpenText Extended ECM solutions. And with that, they were then able to extend the life of infrastructure and eliminate the legacy silos, which ended up preventing any potential legal fines that they could have with records management.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's a great use case, right? Because it handled a couple different things, right? It's not that Puget Sound didn't have policies. It's that maybe that they weren't aligning them, right? And so this is a tool that then allowed them to put their policies in place and manage it, that now all of a sudden reduce security, reduce space, right? And enabled them to kind of move forward and be a little bit more structured in their storage of documents. So it's a great use case. I talked a little bit about, or I kind of teased it a little bit, right? But there's other areas. One of the bonuses of the extended, and again, it's named purposefully, right? Because it's not just a storage; it's an extension, right? So it's a enterprise content management solution. So there's a couple different add-ons, right? Can you tell me about those? And what I'm thinking of specifically is maybe some things like in the HR space, right? Or maybe even the engineering document space.
Yeah, sure. So one portion of that is Extended ECM has special functionalities for integrating with success factors. And so success factors has different modules, one of them being employee onboarding, talent management, payroll, recruiting and onboarding, LMS or learning management system. And so Extended ECM provides the capability of integrating with all these different processes that are available in the employee central recruiting, onboarding, and learning management solution. Extended ECM for success factors, it's the modern centralized repository for all of the HR documents. And something I'd like to point out is that Auritas is the only North American partner that's certified in the OpenText Success Factors connector. And we had a customer that we worked with who implemented OpenText Extended ECM for SAP Success Factors using the Auritas Content Accelerator for a faster value attainment. And we had that customer achieve 4 times faster processes and an increase in their personal productivity. So this was really due to the integration of employee documents from disparate applications in business workspace stored in the centralized repository.
Yeah, I think that's, again, one, highlighted a couple pieces. Again, Auritas has a specialty and a unique extension in this area. I think the last piece that you talked about is this efficiency. I think a lot of customers really don't realize it until you start paying attention, maybe how many places they're storing documents or unstructured content, and how difficult it is when someone asks, what seems like it would be a simple task of asking, hey, can you get me the documents that are related to, employee XYZ or process, 1, 2, 3. When you really start digging into it, when you don't have a centralized repository, things may be strewn in a couple different areas, and you might have duplicates, or you might not even be able to find things. So again, incredibly powerful to have a solution in a single unit, right? So appreciate those updates. Once they've stored, maybe it's just kind of this next question, right? Once they've stored their content in this centralized area, what else does it provide you the opportunity? And what I'm thinking of there is like, how is, you think about AI and artificial intelligence is kind of like the biggest area right now. Having everything in one location, does that provide you a benefit? And are there some examples that you can highlight?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And especially now, AI is getting bigger and bigger. And so it's really important for these organizations and for companies to get more aligned in this area so that AI can be more incorporated in it. And AI does depend on trusted, organized information. And it's the metadata that gives AI the important business context. So similar to SAP, OpenText also has its own AI tool, which is called Aviator, and it works specifically with Extended ECM to give all the AI insights and give companies the ability to have those advanced functions automatically. And as I mentioned, SAP Joule complements this with the SAP business data. So having that centralized content creates a stronger foundation for future AI initiatives.
Yeah, no, and again, I think it's one of the neat things that I think that the partnership between OpenText and SAP. You mentioned Aviator from OpenText and Joule from SAP, and I think one of the things that they're doing is they're starting to integrate, some of that functionality together, right? So an SAP customer can utilize their Joule to start to benefit from some of the OpenText Aviator components. So again, really neat collaboration and partnership there. So maybe a final question in this area, right? So for organizations listening today, right? They may already have OpenText, maybe they don't, but they may already have OpenText in place, right? Or they're just getting started. What is the best, what's kind of the next step for them?
Yeah, I'd say to start off, it would be to review your current document landscape. You have to account for what kind of documents are there, what do you need to manage in your system, how these documents are connecting to different platforms, whether that's SAP, non-SAP platforms, how the information flows from one solution to another, all those things. And so once you do all of that, at Auritas, we have an exercise which helps customers identify opportunities and build a roadmap based on their business goals.
No, I think and again, right, that's, like I said early on, Auritas has been doing this for years, right? In the OpenText space, we're experts in the content and document management space. So to your point, right, understanding, having it, and again, I think that's the key piece. Companies need to assess where they currently are. Like just as you were saying, right? Like, what is their starting point? As I mentioned, right, it seems like an easy task to, pull up employee data, pull up transaction records, right, or receipts, and sometimes you start to figure out, well, those are stored in so many different places. So essentially trying to understand what are all the touch points, and then I said, reaching out to Auritas, and at that point we can help customers. If you're already on OpenText, maybe help make sure that you're on the right version, have the right level of software, are utilizing it in the most efficient manner, right? If you don't have a document management system, we have the opportunity to help you understand what the value will be and kind of assess that, and like you said, put a roadmap together. So all great points, Odeline, and great feedback, right? So I think this is a great place to wrap up. Thanks so much for joining us today and sharing your insights on how organizations can better manage the enterprise content and prepare for the future. So, and thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.